think with that, John, I think we'll go ahead and get started if you want to kick us off.
Absolutely. Well, I just want to welcome everybody here. I'm John Whitler, the Regional Coordinator covering Southeast Colorado for Ogallala Commons, and I lead our Grow Eco initiative. So we do community development work in lots of rural communities, but specifically Southeast Colorado. And as we get started, I just wanted to give a big shout out to the Startup Colorado team and to everyone at the SBDC for putting this together, and all of the coordination for the corresponding calls to get organized has been amazing. It's the purpose of what we're doing, and the reason is really, it grows out of a desire to provide reliable, consistent time and place for business owners and business support organizations to synthesize and disseminate the current information and developments that are coming at us so quickly, and do that on a weekly basis. So the duration of this will be driven kind of by the events as they unfold. It's our hope that in the next coming weeks, we'll kind of make the shift from crisis response and into the recovery process. So that'll obviously take a while as well. So we want to support everybody through that, and don't hesitate to jump in with some questions or feedback in the Q&A. And with that, I'd like to introduce Bill Fulton with Civic Canopy, who's providing some assistance with the structure and facilitation for the session.
Great, thanks so much, John. Great to be here with you all. And if you want to advance the next slide there, Emily. As John said, it's a great team that's been putting all of this on, all the logos there on the call. It's I think a symbol of this is a crisis bigger than any one entity can solve by itself. So the partnerships that's been developing has really been impressive. Next slide. Just a quick kind of flight plan of our call today. We'll start off with a kind of an update from our Senate teams from at the federal level about the CARES Act. And we're honored to be joined by both teams from Senator Gardner's and Senator Bennett's office today. Then we'll dive deeply into the Small Business Loans and Paycheck Protection Program, as well as a little bit on USDA funding. Talk in depth on some of the unemployment insurance and the sick pay resources out there for you. And then just a kind of a new item on the agenda just recently came out of some backup support for helping you navigate some of these times. We will be taking questions in the Q&A function as we go, and that we'll try to respond to at the end of the call. That you should see that on the bottom of your screen, a chance to type in questions as you're going along. We'll be kind of theming them and responding at the end. We've got a lot of material to cover, but we're going to try to leave some time to respond to those at the end. Again, just a word of note as we start this off is I think everybody's well aware we're all a bunch of human beings here figuring this out. If there's audio challenges or tech challenges, hopefully you'll certainly understand, and we'll get a chance to kind of move through those. So we appreciate your patience with that. Great to have everybody here. I'm going to turn it over to Kat, who's going to kind of kick us off with that first CARES section. Okay, you may be muted, Kat. Let's see. Do we have Kat with us?
Okay, we'll try it with computer audio.
Great, all right. Good to have you back.
Okay, let's see, is that better?
Yeah, that sounds great. Welcome. Okay. Almost as if to exemplify my last point there, Kat.
Yep, no worries. Okay, so next slide, please. Okay, all right, so let me just double check my audio one more time here. Okay. Sorry, guys. Can you hear me now? Okay. Fantastic. Sorry, technical issues.
No problem. No problem.
So what we wanted to start with, actually, can we pop back one more slide, please? So I'm with Office of Economic Development and International Trade, and we invited some representatives from our senators team today, Senator Gardner as well as Senator Bennett, to help us unpack a high level of the CARES Act. And so joining us today from Senator, okay, is this a little bit better? Sorry, I'm hearing I'm having audio issues. Okay, I'll just pull it up. So from Senator Gardner's office, we're going to have Darlene Scorpio, and the state director, a little bit of practice joining us. So we'll get Darlene some of those questions. And from Senator Bennett's office, we have Jacqueline Armendariz, who is Colorado Technologist lead, and Jennifer South. Okay, I'm going to try to call back in, guys. I'm just going to pose the first question so that our panelists can just start talking. So from a high level, how does the CARES Act fit in, and this will be the next slide, how does the CARES Act fit in with the overall aid that the federal government has put out in response to the COVID epidemic? So Darlene, if you're okay to go, I'm going to have you start off with this, please.
Hey, Kat, it's Andy Merritt. I'm actually here. Sorry, it's been a little technical difficulties. Yeah, thank you for having us, and thank you all for participating in this. The real way, there's kind of been three things that we've looked at in the approach from Congress so far. The first part was addressing the immediate health emergency. You've heard the term used quite a bit, flatten the curve. We want to avoid overwhelming the medical resources that are available to save lives and to hopefully shorten the length of time that this has the impact it's having on in our country. The next piece was to provide direct assistance to individuals and families, give them that immediate assistance that they need so that they can be able to put food on the table, pay their rent, pay their mortgage, things like that. And then the third, and where the CARES Act fit in, is addressing the needs of workers and businesses. We need to get the economy in a place where we're prepared to bounce back once we do, in fact, get through the medical emergency and can get back to work. We wanted to make it as simple as possible and as quick as possible so that we can get businesses up and running again and get our economy moving as quickly as possible.
And hi, everybody. This is Jacqueline. I'll just add, we have a piece of what's coming next, of course. And so what Senator Bennett is working on is continuing to ensure that robust rebates are a priority, which was something he worked on for this package as well. In all likelihood, there'll be another round of those rebates. And additionally, Senator Bennett is currently working on a letter in regard to the rebates. Many of us are aware that if we file an income tax return, that will be a way in which we receive them. However, for folks who receive benefits or low income and don't file income tax, most recent development is that folks on Social Security and SSDI will receive those automatic rebate payments. And the letter that we're working on is to include folks who receive SSI benefits as well as veterans benefits. Thanks.
Great, thank you so much for that, Jacqueline. And I think I've got it fixed. Pardon the giant headset, but it should work a little bit better now. Next slide, please. So Jacqueline, on this one, can you unpack for us, back one, I'm sorry, guys, we're on the business support one. Can you unpack on this one, what are the specific business support and resources for our small business owners that are within the CARES Act?
Certainly. And so in reference to the slide before you, obviously there's a number of components to that. And what I can provide is a little bit of context about the situation currently is that keep in mind, this was an unprecedented $2 trillion stimulus package that Congress worked on in about the span of a week. So that is in relation to the kind of the government process that we're seeing roll out here, with rulemaking with the different agencies like SBA, for example. So if you see that first point there, one of the buckets in the CARES Act was for SBA support. There's programs that the experts after us will talk about in depth, but those include Paycheck Protection Program, economic injury disaster loans, debt forgiveness components. The other kind of buckets that were in the CARES Act include funding for the Economic Development Administration and USDA, which you can see a bit more in detail there. And of course, there's also a component of the CARES Act that has to do with taxes, and obviously the ways that those are stacked. There's payroll taxes that businesses will worry about. There's retention credits that they'll get. Additionally, there's components of paid leave, which is on the agenda later here, and even some guidance or legislation regarding early retirement withdrawals given the crisis situation. And so for our role here, it's incredibly challenging for this quick turnaround. So we see a responsibility to stay on top of the implementation when it comes to all these agencies moving parts. Thanks.
Great. And then Andy, looks like you've been able to join us. Welcome. Thanks. We got that worked out. Did you have anything else to add a little bit in terms of some of the timelines where businesses are going to see these resources coming out? We knew that even though this passed a week ago, it may take a little while before the guidelines are there.
Yeah, and the whole idea was to leverage the existing infrastructure we have in the banks, the existing relationships that your businesses have with banks. And so with the Paycheck Protection Program, it's as you've probably seen, starting to roll out today. Some banks are starting to accept applications now, and more as the day goes on and in coming days. For independent contractors, things like that, some of the benefits there may not kick in for another week yet, till next Friday, when those programs hopefully will come open and those kind of people can start applying for them. And then same thing, we tried to be faster with the SBA programs, the economic injury disaster loans, and you will see that program's now coming open, and hopefully the SBA can move quite quickly on that program and getting that money out as well.
Great, perfect. Next slide. So our small businesses are definitely one of the primary community employers for all of our rural Colorado communities. Andy, can you talk a little bit more, just a high-level overview about what businesses need to know to support their employees within the CARES Act?
Yeah, the whole idea here was to allow as much as possible for you, the employer, to keep people on your payroll. And so you're going to get some more detailed information from follow-on presenters. So just real quickly, that's the focus here, is allowing you to keep folks on, or if you've already let folks go, to be able to bring them back onto your payroll so that those relationships continue to be made. There will be a number of different programs. There's some expansion on unemployment insurance, the temporary pandemic unemployment assistance, and things which you'll hear more details on. There's even a program that allows employers to contribute up to $5,250 tax-free to their employees' student loans to help them continue to make payments like that and provide some benefit to your employees.
Fantastic. Jacqueline, anything else to add in there with that?
Sure, I would simply underscore what Andy said, is that, for example, the PPP that was crafted as a strong incentive to keep people on payroll. And I would also mention that CARES Act does include a piece of legislation regarding paid leave, which I believe you'll get more details on as well.
Fantastic. Great. So next slide, please. Just a real quick wrap up. I know that we're going to be doing Q&A at the end. There's a resource slide for all of your reps' contact information if you want to reach out to them directly. I think Jacqueline had mentioned it before. They always want to hear your feedback. Any last minute thoughts, or maybe an FAQ that each of you has kind of heard coming up from your constituents that you want to address, either around CARES? And let's see, Andy, I'm going to start with you first and then go to Jacqueline.
Yeah, I think the big thing for both our offices, I'm sure Jacqueline will agree with this, is we are looking, as we look to future legislation, phase 4 that Jacqueline mentioned earlier, we are looking for ideas. What are the things we missed? What are the shortfalls of existing programs? As she pointed out so well, this was crafted really fast. That does not mean in Congress gets things done real well when we go real fast. So any ideas, any feedback you have, please share with us so we can look at what should be included in a future follow-on legislation.
Jacqueline?
Certainly, underscoring that, echoing, and I would simply say, again, reiterating the point that we are here to be of assistance. We did create a slide deck that may be a little bit dated even now, but you're welcome to either email myself or Jen for that slide deck for additional guidance and just kind of some of the things that we've been hearing so far, reiterating that we do want to hear what your experience is currently through this entire process. But so far, we've heard a lot about when. When is the rebate going to be available? When can I apply for UI? When it comes to SBA loans? And today is a big day in the when, which your presenters will talk about later. This is a context of people making real-time decisions that we've never wanted to make. So we are hearing more than anything the sense of urgency here, and we want to call that out in Senator Bennett's office, that we hear from Coloradoans that the need is urgent, and so we are working urgently. Thanks.
Yeah, and Jacqueline, thanks for bringing up that slide deck. That reminded me, I forgot to mention that. We will have that available as part of our follow-up packet to all of our participants as well. So thank you to both of you for joining us. I'm going to turn it back over to Bill here to transition us into the next speaker.
Thanks, Kat, and thanks to both Senate staffs. It's amazing to see the teamwork that you're all providing for Colorado. We so appreciate that. We're going to now kind of drill a little bit more deeply into the small business side of the CARES Act and invite Mickey to kind of walk us through some of the details about what the application process is and the nuts and bolts. If we can go to the next slide.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Nikki Lewis-Gamici. I'm the Regional Director for Southeast Colorado Small Business Development Center. And if we can go to the next slide. Thank you. I'm that yellow section down at the very bottom right corner of the map. So those are my counties, 7 counties of Southeast Colorado. And if we can go to the next slide, please. So first and foremost, we definitely want everyone to know that SBDC has been working not individually, because we all have regions, but as a team on this. And we've been working side by side with the Office of Economic Development and with the Small Business Administration, and also the Minority Business Office. So this has been completely a team effort, and collectively, we have worked on the Colorado SBDC network updates, which you can get at this particular link at the bottom, coloradosbdc.org/COVID. If you can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. One of the things that is right center in the page on that website is the COVID book, resource book guidebook. I have to tell you that I have to thank the Minority Business Office. They translated the entire book into Spanish and worked with us, a team of multiple MBO and SBDC directors, to create a guidebook that would break everything down, even into the kind of the Q&A you ask yourself, you know, does this fit for me? And what does this word mean? Because we do understand that that sometimes business speak can be very tough to process during a time when you might be feeling more in a crisis situation. So we took that into account as we walked through this. And there are many other guides and information that are available on there. What we've done is we've tried to link everything together, so you're not having to research, but you're going to one page that will lead you to all of the things you need to know. Can I have the next slide, please? For those of you that really need to talk to someone, and we really understand that, even though we are moving, the tech is on the horizon, of course we're using it right now. I had tech issues because that's why I'm talking through the phone instead of having my face on the screen, is that we know that you might need to make a phone call and talk to someone. So we've added the Colorado COVID-19 Disaster Response Hotline. That number is there, and it's open Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Also know that whether you're in Southeast Colorado or in any of the other regions, you can absolutely start with our Colorado SBDC website, and that'll guide you to the region that you can reach out to and talk with someone on the team for that particular region, where a lot of us are working almost around the clock right now. So we welcome the call. Next slide, please. So this has been the biggest question I think that we're fielding this week is the EIDL loan and all of the parameters around the loan guidelines. The really important ones to identify is that you must have 500 employees or fewer to be eligible. You need to be able to show that you've been directly affected by COVID-19. So that may be on your P&L. You may see a reduction in sales, especially January 1st. You'll start to see maybe those sales are going down as information was going through the media. So you're going to need to show that when you do get to the point where you're being processed. You also need to be able to repay. And then they will look at the credit history, but we will say that and this comes through direct guidance from SBA, is that the restrictions have begun to loosen over this past week because they did realize that the disaster time is not the same as status quo average business week. So they are re-reviewing all of the original applications that came in the very first week, which would have been almost 3 weeks ago. And so if you're finding that you have received notice that you're processing, but you haven't heard anything else, it's probably because you're being re-reviewed, and that's a good thing. The other thing is if you're open less than 3 years, we have a lot of new businesses, you must provide verifiable proof of P&L. So QuickBooks, anything that you have, if you do your own accounting, if you have an accountant, anything that have been compiling for your taxes, all of those are really helpful. And one more thing I wanted to add is that if you did apply the first week and you have not gone back in to do a second application, as of this Monday, they changed the portal, and all you need to do is go back in, answer about 15, maybe 10, 15 minutes worth of questions. You answer those, you're still in line from when you first applied, but it also makes you eligible for the up to $10,000 advance. And next slide, please. We did pull together a couple of some facts that kept coming up for us. We had a lot of questions about collateral. If it's available, obviously you must pledge it, but you will not be declined on the lack of collateral. And they have been able to, they have the EIDL bridge loan, which actually is up to $25,000 and will kind of get you through this crisis, but doesn't have to be backed by collateral. Once again, please make sure to apply through the portal. That's your gate to getting to access to all of these opportunities. When do payments on the loan begin? They're giving a 6 to 12 month grace period. Now that will have to be, you'll have to discuss that, but automatically you can get a 6-month grace period because the government understands that this is going to take time. Can you just apply for the EIDL advance? No, you have to apply through the portal, but if let's say you are granted the $10,000, which is a grant, it's not expected to be paid back, and you ask for $20,000, then you would receive $10,000 of the advance, and then only $10,000 would be put on a loan. So that $10,000 is a front that helps you immediately, and it's grant money. Anything over that becomes a loan, and that all of that. Even the grant process, you will still have to process paperwork. So it's not so automatic that it just shows up in your account. There's still a process for this. And can you apply for the EIDL advance, which is the bridge loan of up to $25,000 and PPP? Yes, you can. Just remember that you are going to need to have documentation that aligns with all the requirements for those loans. And we do understand that everyone is they would like to have as much information as they possibly can right now, but we're asking that you stay in there with us as we are getting new information and it's vetted in research, we're passing it on. So we're not holding anything back that can be released to the public. Next slide, please. And we've created some easy for you slides. All of the SBDC centers have these, so you can have this on this PowerPoint, and thank you for including this. But you can also get all of this information from your SBDC center, including Southeast Colorado. So the first slide is just confirming your eligibility, gathering your materials, and then calculating the loan that you need. You really should be looking at, is this something that's feasible for me, and including everything. Include how much you pay yourself as a business owner, include all the fees that you pay for credit cards, all those things that you normally don't worry about so much. It's just part of the business. You need to stop and think about all of these things. Next slide, please. And then the application starting date is April 3rd. Today, small business and sole proprietors loans are opened. On the 10th is when independent contractors and self-employed individual loans open. So mark it on your calendar, put a reminder on your phone, whatever you need to do. You'll complete the application, and the application that everyone will be applying through will be the choosecolorado.com /COVID-19. And then you're submitting your application, and then that will be routed to your local approved SBA bank, and then SBA.gov has a full list of lenders. You do not have to go seek a lender. SBA is going to make sure that people are directed to the closest lender to them. And next slide, please. All you need to have all of your payroll payments and eligible payments set up. You want to follow all the guidelines. Make sure to ask. Once again, I can't instill in you more that call your local SBDC, look on their website. There's a lot of information available to you. The PPP is 75% of the total loan is for payroll. So whether you are furloughing and you're bringing your employees back, or you're keeping them on, you have to be able to show that how you're handling this. An 8-week period for payments, and then June 30th is the payment deadline. And then you'll be submitting for loan forgiveness. There is a lot of guidance that's going to be coming out over the next week that's going to help us start guiding you in that. So I don't have more than what's on this slide to give you, because I don't want to give any incorrect information, but know that more is on the way. And next slide, please. Obviously there are your links there, and all of my contact information, Nikki Lewis Amici, is available at the southeastcosbdc.org website. Keep in mind that most of the web platforms have been enhanced, but there is still very high traffic. So SBDC is guiding you and encouraging you to maybe apply early in the morning or wait until later in the evening, times when it might be a little bit slower online. And if you're a night owl like me, that's a great time to do it too. And I'll jump right into the USDA Resources. Next slide, please. These are resources specific to ag businesses. And I'm sure those of you who have already looked at the EIDL loan eligibility, you've seen that there's questions about ag businesses, and just know that there is assistance for agricultural businesses. The best thing to do is work with the USDA, because they are an entity that is there solely for agriculture. So you have their websites that you can go to, and you can, once again, certainly talk with SBDC, because we will direct you to everything that you need to assist you in this. Thank you very much for your time.
Great. Thank you so much, Mickey. We know you're working overtime for that region. I also want to just acknowledge that Jason Medina in the San Luis Valley is also an important team member on this. Those of you west of I-25, consider reaching out to him. He's the director of the SBDC down there, and he will be joining us on next week's call as well. So thanks so much, Mickey, for filling us in. We're going to turn now to Betty Velasquez to update us on the unemployment and the sick pay resources. Betty, are you with us?
Actually, this is Dawn Robards, and I'm Betty's counterpart in Northeast Colorado. Betty was unable to join the call today, so I'm pinch hitting for her.
Great to have you. Thanks so much, Dawn.
Oh, no problem. Thanks for the introduction, Bill. You can go ahead to the next slide. So Jessica Valland is our director in Northwestern Colorado, and she put together the first few pages of this slide deck to just show some options for employers. So employers right now are in one of two camps. Either businesses having to close due to a public health order, lack of demand, loss of revenue, or some combination of all three, or you are an essential business that has sufficient demand to keep operation, but you may be facing challenges related to the sickness or unavailability of your staff. Jessica had separated out the relevant employer information for us based on these two groupings, though of course you may be in one camp today and in another in a week's time, and we've seen that just through our systems. Each day this week has been a completely different ballgame. And just to clarify, I'm not a subject matter expert on this information and included information available at the time this presentation was developed. Clark Becker is also on the call, and he's our supervisor, the director of the Colorado Rural Workforce Consortium, and can jump in as needed. If I can't answer your questions, of course, I can commit to finding the answer and bringing it back to the group. Next slide. In conjunction with emergency family medical leave, employers are also required to provide paid sick leave to their workers who are eligible due to the reasons listed, up to the cap based upon circumstances. Part-time employees receive the number of paid hours they would work during an average 2-week period. Certain provisions may not apply to certain employers with fewer than 50 employees. So there's specific regulations that will outline those. These businesses have the same opportunity to apply to be exempt from the EPSL as they do FMLA. Special rules apply to healthcare providers and emergency responders. Paid sick time does not carry over from one year to the next, and employees are not entitled for reimbursement of unused leave on any type of separation. Employers may elect to substitute any accrued vacation leave, personal leave, or medical or sick leave for the first 2 weeks of the partial paid period. Next slide. If you are still operating but have workers that are sick or have to stay home to care for children due to school closure, et cetera, it's important that you are familiar with the expanded family medical leave. Small businesses with fewer than 50 employees may qualify for exemption from the requirement to provide leave due to school closings or childcare unavailability if the leave requirements would jeopardize the viability of the business as an ongoing concern. Next slide. WorkShare is a program that operates in tandem with unemployment insurance, wherein a worker who has had their hours reduced by at least 10% of normal, but no more than 50%. The employer will compensate the employee at their regular rate for hours worked, and UI will reimburse the remaining hours as a percentage of time worked. In the example above, UI would pay 40% of the employee's weekly UI allotment, or $185 a week. This employee should also be eligible to receive pandemic unemployment compensation at $600 a week. And there's more on that in the next slide, through July 31st of this year. WorkShare agreements are typically valid for 12 months from the date of approval. WorkShare is a way for employers to retain the employees, avoid having to restaff from scratch, and also ensure that the employee is compensated for the time worked. WorkShare programs can be operated now with applications turned around inside of a week. There is a website or an email address we can send you to for questions, and it's cdle_employer_services@state.co.us. There is a local municipality, Rio Blanco County, that is using their own iteration of WorkShare program. And if anybody would like more information on that, we can certainly get that from Jessica. Next slide. So unemployment insurance is the basic eligibility for unemployment is you need to be laid off through no fault of your own. So this is not the time for employers to be worried about folks that may have needed to be separated due to their behavior or any other situation falling into that category. UI will still screen for that. The pandemic unemployment insurance, the eligibility will run through January 27th of 20 through the end of this calendar year, so December 31st. And eligible claimants include exhaustees of regular UI or otherwise ineligible. And those would include people that are maybe unable or unavailable, sole proprietor, and right now the 1099 contract workers are rolled up into that. This is not yet determined how these weekly supplemental payments to the UI pandemic unemployment assistance will be made, but that is a flat $600 for each claim, regardless of the size of the claim. $600 was the difference between the national average UI payment and the national average weekly wage. So it's really designed to try to keep our workers whole as best as they possibly can. Those receiving regular UI must be able to work and available to go to work, but the requirement to look for work is currently waived for everyone. This will exclude folks that right now we're seeing the trend of a 30-day layoff due to being job attached. And those folks are being that job attached under old guidelines could go up to 16 weeks. And we would generally see that for seasonal employment, such as agriculture, things like that, where they would be laid off through the winter season. So the same rules are applying to those folks. They're considered job attached. Their job is, as we know today, waiting for them at the end of this pandemic lull. And so the requirements to not look for work. We are having them register with us, so we have a more comprehensive view of how many people this is impacting at this time, and also to be able to mobilize our local resources to pull that together and make sure that we have enough of a support network for those folks that will fall within that category. Otherwise, we really wouldn't have a good idea of how many people this was affecting. So next slide. Okay, so I think I had pulled together a little bit of information based on some of Betty's information, and we included that kind of at last minute, so forgive the slide not being up there. But her Lamar office had, and these are the ones that are just working right now with the Workforce Center. These are the ones, not the ones that have maybe done this on their own. But she had 14 employers reported as impacted, mostly in food service, but there was also a child care facility and some retail starting. 57 UI applicants have engaged with Workforce Services. The La Junta office had 19 employers reported as impacting. And again, mostly food service and hospitality, and we'll see that through all of our eastern areas, northeast and southeast as well. But there was a child care facility and also a home health business. 52 UI applicants had been engaged with Workforce through La Junta. Walsenburg had 2 employers, both food service, with 15 UI applicants. And Trinidad saw 18 employers, heavily food service, but also seeing a mix of transportation, oil and gas, and some municipality impact. And they had 292 UI applicants engaged in Workforce. Now, these are not including, off of Betty's tracking, there was a lot of employers that hadn't reported the numbers in there, but they are tracked as the employer side, not necessarily the impacted worker side. And all of these so far are listed as 30-day closures, not permanent closures. So depending upon the stay-at-home orders, we'll see whether or not we start seeing these come back to life in May. So next slide, and thank you for the quick adjustment on our slides. So, and just so folks know, because it seems like nationally, because we are shut to the general public, people are thinking Workforce is not operational, and that's certainly not the case. You can access services. All staff are remoting in, so we are basing all of our activities on a virtual format. You can leave messages. They're checked several times a day at any of our local workforce centers throughout the state. And additionally, Betty does have a Facebook page that's on that slide deck that you are more than welcome to access any updated information there, as well as be able to chat with staff or send a Facebook message. We are still doing the full menu of services. There's nothing that we handle that is really put on hold effectively. So we are fully operational, just not within our locations. It's also different to look at it with most of our areas have been experiencing a labor shortage over the past several years. And that labor shortage in certain industries is continuing. That's the anomaly along with all these mass temporary layoffs. So it's that fine line of working to preserving the workforce of those businesses that do plan at reopening after the stay-at-home order, as well as making sure that our employers that are still in need of viable workers, which are pretty much all longer-term positions, that we make sure that we do what's best for all involved. So it's kind of our little dynamic we have going right now that it makes life a little bit more interesting than usual. So, but we are open for business, and you can access us through email, through websites, through Facebook, or by calling the office, and we'll make sure that folks get the answers and the assistance that they need. So, and Betty regrets that she was unable to join, but she should be on the future Friday calls.
Great, thank you so much, Dawn. Great to have your support. I think we'll go to the next slide and have Taylor share a kind of a new update of additional resources to support folks going through this process. Oh, Taylor, sorry if we...
Sorry, thanks, Bill. Can everyone hear me now?
No problem, we can hear you now.
Okay, perfect. Well, hey, thanks so much for everyone for joining today's call. I know it's a ton of information coming your way. And like Bill and others have said, we will be sure to put this information out to you directly after this call, so hang on tight for that. One thing that I did want to mention, Mickey and her team, as well as Jason and his team that cover the San Luis Valley counties, and then also the South SBDC regions that cover Huerfano, Custer, Fremont, and Pueblo counties. All of these SBDC directors are doing a great job, getting information to you. And one of the things that is prevalent is they're getting a ton more inquiries for one-on-one consulting. So in an effort to help add additional support to that, we have pulled together quite a few state partners and assembled a group of experienced CFOs, controllers, and other financial professionals to help small businesses as you guys navigate through a lot of these pieces. It's a free service. And so if you guys want to go to the next slide really quickly, I want to show folks the website. It's called COVID-19financialhelp.splashvat.com. And folks can go there, they can fill out a quick form. It takes 1 to 2 minutes, and then someone will reach back out to them to provide additional consulting, especially if it relates to financial areas of your business. So just know that we're really encouraging folks to go to their SBDC consultants first. And as a second stop, this national network of pro bono financial service professionals will be there as a backup. So just wanted to promote that. That just came through this morning, so wanted to make sure that was included today.
Excellent, thanks so much. So it's great to know kind of people are still jumping in to figure out how they can contribute in these difficult times. I think that moves us through the planned content. We're going to take some Q&A now from the folks that have been adding that throughout the call. Oh, sorry about that. Thanks very much. Put up these are we've been showing these throughout the call, but these are kind of the go-to resources that people should continually go back to. There's so many different resources, the ability to apply for the supports, and we'll just leave those up on the screen for you. John, I want to pass it back to you to see if there's some questions that we can take that people were sharing during the call.
Absolutely. So I think the first one is the question that we received that says, our payroll shows people who quit in the last year. What time frame should the payroll register include? There are people we do not want to hire back. Is the PPP loan for total payroll or specific individuals to keep employed? Can we hire new people that were not on the payroll register? And so I don't know if that's one that either Mickey or Kat would want to jump in on.
Hi, John. This is Mickey. I can answer some of that. So what they're looking at is your current payroll. So individuals, when they moved to have only necessary or essential personnel stay at the job, and they were telling everyone else to go home and stay at home, that the individuals that are employed at that time, they're wanting you to obviously keep those individuals, so PPP is designed for that. But I think that that's an interesting question about the hiring process during this, because I know that there are some businesses that are struggling to stay afloat, and then there are other businesses that have made accommodations and things that they've shifted so quickly that they're actually having an increase. Like we have a small restaurant in this area that does curbside service, and they've quadrupled their sales. So that is an important question, and I think that that is one that I would like to send an answer once I've contacted the SBA about that, because I have not heard that in any of the discussions, and I think that that's a valid question.
All right. Appreciate that, and I think it would be good to go ahead and have that as a follow-up. We'll have the any other information about that we can get out, either via the Facebook groups or on this call next week. So another question that we had was also around the payroll protection, and that is, how does the PPP loan interest factor into what is forgiven? Will all PPP participants still have to pay loan interest even if all their expenses are eligible for forgiveness?
Hi, it's Nikki again. I can jump back in on this one. I can tell you right now that as of yesterday, and even through today, they're still working on the parameters of the loan forgiveness. And I apologize that I can't give you exact answers, but I mean, I'm just repeating the apology that we're hearing from the SBA. So please know that that all the guidelines and parameters of all of these programs are being developed, and things are changing by the hour. So I would have to come back with a follow-up answer to that, but I think that I will be able to offer some things after I confer with the SBA today and through the weekend.
Great, thank you. I think we've got time here to throw one more in as well, and actually I think this might come to you as well, Mickey. But on the Int'l loans, and the grants, are those available for nonprofit entities as well?
Yes, they are. What you do need to do is if you go to the portal, on the very first page, there's only 2 screens that you go to in the Int'l application. In the first screen, you have to answer all the questions, and that will let you know if there's anything that is outside the parameters of eligibility. So obviously anything that has to do with illegal operations, anything that has to do with gambling, and then once you answer those questions, that will allow you to move into the next screen. The goal of SBA is to not waste your time. We want you to be using your time purposefully. So if you are not eligible, it will let you know you are not eligible. But I encourage people, because the parameters have expanded in a very short period of time, I encourage you to start the application process. Like I said, the screen will tell you if you're ineligible. So let them tell you, don't decide for yourself, because 3 weeks ago when this information was coming out, there were very strict parameters, and there were a lot of people that were being denied. And all of this week, the SBA has been going back and re-reviewing all of the original applications, and then actually considering those individuals eligible. So this is one of those times where I know it's difficult that you don't have every answer, but remember that you've paid into the system for years as a responsible business owner and even as an employee. And now is the time that we're turning back to those resources so that they can be used the way they were designed. So apply and let them tell you that you're not eligible. Because I would hate to find out later on that a business bypassed the application process thinking that they were not going to be considered eligible, and then only to find out that they could have received funding.
Great, thank you. Well, I think we're really coming up on a hard stop here, so I wanted to make sure and thank all of you guys, everyone from the San Luis Valley, the Pueblo area, all across Southeast Colorado for joining us. And we'll be back doing this again next week. And be sure to check for the information that comes out after this and the information that continues to come. And in the meantime, stay safe and keep your eyes up and your heart open and your feet moving. So we'll all get through this together. So thank you very much.